So I went to Japan last October, and after gaining about 20 pounds, it's time for me to recant the horrors that awaited me there. Going to Japan with anxiety is particularly weird because I don't fake or anything cringe like that. I just get really, really hot. If you've ever seen the Key and Peele sweating meme, that's me in real life, so definitely not cringe. I've always had a very deep sense of guilt just for existing, and I feel like people hate me when I make mistakes. So you can imagine how it must have felt going to #1 lover of rules, Japan. Somehow family and friends all knew about the nuisances that plagued Japan, and this industry of foreigners ruining Japan is what I was about to walk into. Almost immediately, I get put into the line for people who live in Japan. One time when my niece was visiting Little Tokyo, she looked at somebody and said, "Hey, that looks like my uncle." And it turns out she's not the only one that thought this, because the guy who separates people who live there and people who don't, he also thought I was from Tokyo, I guess. So my brother and I had to sneak our way past this guy with our big gaijin bodies and cut into the foreigner line, mortified that we're breaking the rules. And you might ask, instead of looking suspicious to the point where you're denied entry, why not just explain this to the guy? And you would say that, wouldn't you, dirty clown? You would have me go and have a conversation with a stranger? What if I get kidnapped? And I did the thing that anyone with social anxiety would do, is risk it all just to not have to communicate, sneaking into the line unseen. But regardless, I just broke the law. I'm an international criminal at this point. And because of this, I started sweating so much that now people are starting to look at me. This one Chinese lady in particular was pointing at me and telling her son to look at me for some reason, and she made a really big deal out of it. This is a time that I really wish that wrong clip. At this moment, I really wish that I had a phrase to get people off my back. But ultimately for the best, because we left right after and made our way to Akihabara. When I chose to reserve this hotel, I made sure that we would pay once we got there. And it was about 30,000 yen, which I paid the nice man, and he turned to me and said, "This isn't enough." And he looked so apologetic about it. And I was completely unaware that I'd paid him 3,000 yen instead of 30,000. I paid him 3,000 yen, which is about $30 in the US. And if you're not from a country that uses bigger bills, it's easy to think this is the biggest bill, like it's got a bunch of zeros on it. But unfortunately, that's not the case. The biggest bill that they have is a 10,000 yen bill. And this happened 2 more times. Once when my brother was buying his headphones, and another at a place called Gogo Curry. So a lot of restaurants use these machines for you to select your food, and then they give you a ticket so then you can give to the waiter or the person preparing the food, and then they give you the food. It's a very roundabout Japanese way of doing things to try to avoid getting you to speak with a stranger, I guess. Leave it to Japan to find a way to have less social interaction throughout the day. Once again, I was under the impression that because it has a lot of zeros, this is the bill that I can use. I chose the button that was nearest the actual thing that I wanted, and I thought maybe I'd get it, but I ended up getting a dry beer instead. I don't know how a beer can be dry, but I don't know, Japan found a way, I guess. I've learned Japanese for 3 years on and off, sort of, kind of, and that didn't save me from Gogo Curry, not knowing what the fuck is going on. And when I went to try the machine again, the waitress just kind of stared at me, trying to figure out what I was doing wrong. I thought, well, I put in $100, so surely I could buy anything, right? At this point, I sit down, I'm already embarrassed, I already feel like I shouldn't be here. And as a matter of fact, just being in Akihabara for one day made me really, really sad. You know when you're a kid and you relate to a song's lyrics, but then as you get older, you're like, why did I ever listen to this? Then one day you realize that you were so ignorant to what was being said and that you could never affiliate yourself with what the artist is actually feeling, that you don't even... Well, that was me with the song Creep by Radiohead. The lyrics in question being... Skin makes me cry. Because that is kind of how I felt when I was over there. And if you're wondering, what other lyrics did I relate to? None of them, because they suck. I forgot what they're called. Radiohead, they suck ass. Pumpkin? Smashing Pumpkins, that's the other one. Tool, while we're at it, because fuck them. It wasn't until Shrek got released into the Elf Village that I realized just how chopped I actually was. I don't know where I was going with that. That was just kind of... Every single person that I saw in Akihabara was just so amazingly beautiful. The businessmen were all immaculate. They're the guys that you see in, like, you know, Japanese dramas. The women were just so gorgeous, and it really, really made me sad that I was here, and just made me contemplate, what am I doing with my life? Why don't I look like this? Anyway, I stopped my fat body out of the hotel and made my way to the next one, which was in Shinjuku. There was a shrine that I wanted to stop by on the way because it was something that I saw on Abroad in Japan. At least I think it was. After visiting the shrine, there was a girl who was riding a bicycle, and she had something fall from her basket. As I went up to her, we both kind of looked at each other because we were both about equal distance to the thing that fell. And just to show that I was here to help, I did that little jogging thing that you do when you're trying to show someone that you're in a hurry. And I handed her whatever it was that I picked up, and she started talking to me in Japanese. Because when I handed her the thing, I looked at her and, you know, the stupid thoughts came into my head of like, this is what we're gonna tell our kids when we're older. And as I regained consciousness of what's happening in front of me, I realized that she's saying things to me, but I have no idea what she's saying. I had the word for you're welcome in my note cards, but I thought no one's ever gonna thank me. Why do I need this? And so I deleted it. But this was the time that I definitely did need it, and I had no way to disengage. I don't know if it looked like I knew what she was saying, but she just kept on going, and I had to hit her with one of these. Probably that the gesture means the same thing. As I think back on this moment, I don't even remember if I said bye to her. It all just didn't really feel like it was happening to me. But eventually, I did come back to reality, and you know what? It feels good helping people out. Maybe I can be helpful, help an old lady across the street, hold open the door for a person. Look, there's a college kid who's selling chocolates in order to pay his tuition. I'll buy one, sir. What's that? No, I'm not trying to take this other one.
Damn it, bitch, I said let go!
Once again, I've convinced someone that I'm up to no good and trying to scam them. I'm still not gonna let a little setback like that ruin my day. I'm gonna continue on being positive. I'm gonna help out the entire world if I have to. So while I keep on walking down the street, I notice that there are people handing out flyers. Every time I've seen this, I've thought to myself, it kind of sucks having a job where people just ignore you, and it won't cost me anything to grab a flyer, and so I do. And as I do, the girl asks me, do you know what a med cafe is? She said this in English too with no accent, and I just said, yeah. So she starts typing, and my brother's behind me waiting for us to leave. And I'm just there thinking, what is she typing? Like, she knows English. I can't lie to her either and be like, oh, I left the stove on. She'll know what that means. But I'm basically an action figure with like 3 foreign phrases, and so maybe she is too. She turns the phone to me, and translated from Japanese, it asks, would you like to buy me a drink? For those of you uninitiated into otaku culture, let me explain. This isn't a girl hitting on me. This is a maid cafe, where the staff takes unassuming virgins and dorks and takes them to go do cutesy shit. Well, I got news for you, lady. Would a dork be wearing this bullet bill t-shirt that has some bleach on it somehow? Didn't think so. Would a dork be wearing... Oh, fuck. So I got a new puppy about 4 months ago. He's, I think, 6 months old now. His name's Jasper, and he likes to fight. He likes to get up to no good. He also likes to chew on shit like my shoelaces. That's the reason that they're like flared out like this. It's also part of the reason I'm filming outside. Anyway, she thought I wasn't surrounded by chicks. Even though I was radiating aura to the maximum, she still thought it was a good idea to walk up to someone who has a limited edition of JoJo Bizarre Adventure tie with Giorno Giovanni on the back. And would a dork have this Mario tie? No, the reason she asked me this is because I walked up to her. It sucked being in this position, and I had to use the one word that... Oh, what? Hey, shh, no. Oh my god. He just pulled out my mom's plant. Look at this. There's plants right there. And then look at him. Look at him. He just ripped it from the earth from whence it came, dude. Ah. And I felt so bad at this point because I had to tell her no. Not because I thought she wanted to date me or anything, but because when you're having any type of sales pitch, that feels bad. And then again, you knew that someone was going to say no, so that feels even worse. And now I have to press the emergency button. The one word in Japanese I know that can get me out of this. So I turn to her. Hey, I look at her and I say, isogashi, which means I'm busy. If I just wasn't there, we wouldn't have had to have this conversation. I would have to be like, nah, you're just not pretty enough. At least I hope that's not what she thought. Well, I learned my lesson. Starting then is when I started acting like every other foreigner and just cut my head down. Except for when it comes to other foreigners, in which case you give them a friendly little death stare, because apparently that's what you do, because that's what we were getting all the time. Anyway, several days passed without incident until we got to Shibuya. And you know how I said I felt ugly when I got there? Well, Shibuya has the highest concentration of just normal looking people in all of Japan. They're not there to put on a show for anyone, they're just there to go to work. That is until I saw the server of a restaurant we went to called A Happy Pancake. As soon as I saw her, I thought, this is what we're gonna tell our kids when we're older. Now, the thing about having social anxiety is that you'll always avoid the situation that makes you the most nervous, like seeing the love of your life, for example. And so when I went up to pay the bill, I did it at the most opportune time, when she wasn't there. And so I stood there, waiting until guess who shows up? At least that's what I thought, because the girl that I was talking about spoke English, and this girl was now speaking to me in Japanese. Until she said, oh, sorry, did you want a receipt? And then I thought I might be racist because I didn't think this was her. But also, that security guard might have been onto something. So I have a lot of questions for her because she speaks English. I wanted to know, does she watch English memes? Does she know Japanese memes as well? Where did she grow up? I have so much that I want to say, but it's all brought to a halt when I start doing this. And this happens for way too long, and eventually the moment passes. She tells me, here's your receipt, and I feel really bad. But unfortunately, this is where everything ended. And this isn't to say someone like me could have gone out with someone like her because she was gorgeous and I look the way I do. But at the very least, I could have made her laugh. I could have made a good impression, and I couldn't even do that. It was something that I kept on thinking about as the trip went on. I do want to go back. I do want to go talk to her again. So on our final day of the trip, we go there to get breakfast, which is by far the hardest time to get any food. We go up the elevator, we're about to get into the hallway when we realize that it is completely packed. So much so that when we get out of the elevator, it still thinks that we're in front of it and it will not close. The elevator keeps on making this noise, opening and shutting, and it's very loud. And eventually I get so anxious, I get so flustered that I bolt in through the door and hope that my brother's right behind me. Guess what? He's not. It shuts behind me. He gets left behind. Everyone's looking at him and he just has to go onto his phone pretending like he's doing something. I'm just outside on the street hoping he comes to me. He's there hoping I go to him. Eventually he caves and then comes to me and then we just leave. And maybe this is a good theme, but then we went to a ramen restaurant which had a Chainsaw Man theme. Am I dingy in this example? I don't know, but it was one of the better restaurants that we went to, one that actually wasn't recommended by a YouTuber. And speaking of which, I did a lot of that. I went to so many restaurants that were recommended by other people, and none of them too good. I have a lot to say about Japan, some negative and some positive. For anyone who does want to go, I would recommend it because you realize after being there and going through the awkward things like me, you'll be able to get through it. And even though you've told yourself that you can't, I think you'll find you're more capable than you think. Hopefully you have renewed eyes after doing something new. I know going changed how I view myself, Japan, and the people who talk about Japan. The entire truth of anything isn't waiting for you on a screen to be fed to you through someone else's perspective. It's something to be informed through experiences, not impressions, which is so valuable given how many people want to sell you on what the truth is.